Welcome to another tutorial of Proflan YouTube channel. In this particular video, we are going to discuss some of the questions that have proven to be very difficult for most of the candidates in the previous around 2 years. So we're going to look at those questions so that you can be able to know what are you supposed to do whenever you are given such kind of questions in paper 1H. If you are new to Proflan YouTube channel, consider subscribing so that anytime I'm going to upload more tutorials, you'll be notified. Let's dive in so that we can be able to get started and get to see what are you supposed to do whenever you're going to see such kind of questions in paper 1H. Now here, candidates were given a 10-sided polygon and they were supposed to come up with the size of angle X. Angle X is actually the exterior angle at this point. So what were candidates supposed to do in such question? Number one, candidates were supposed to remember that sum of interior angles of a polygon is given by n minus 2 times 180. For any polygon, be it is a regular or irregular polygon, sum of interior angles will be n minus 2, where n is representing the number of sides. Then, in this case, we are given a 10-sided polygon, so meaning that we could be able to say that this is a 10-sided polygon, which means that this is going to be 10 minus 2 times 180, and that's going to be 1440. Then we are supposed to find the sum of all the given angles, and sum of all the given angles in this, you add this one, this one, this one, you add all these angles that are here, then it means we're going to get 1302, which is basically excluding this angle that we have at that point. So I need to remove anything that is at that given point. So 1302 minus subtracted from 1440, we are going to get the size of the interior angle, and the size of this interior angle is going to be this one here. This one is going to be 138 degrees. If you subtract, you are going to get 138. Then to get this angle that is outside here, this is angle at a point add up to 180. So we're going to take 360, then subtract 138, you'll get now the exterior angle, which is going to be 222 degrees. Another question that was asked is a question to do with a trapezium. Candidates were asked to work out the size of angle ABC. So meaning candidates were supposed to find the entire of this particular angle. And another information that was provided, this trapezium has exactly one line of symmetry, of which now I decided that if this has one line of symmetry, this is the line of symmetry that we are talking about. Okay, so meaning that if it has line of symmetry, because this can be folded along this blue line I've indicated here, which will mean that this part and this part are equal. So which means if from here to here, if this is 8.4, then also from this point to this particular point here is 8.4, then this should be 4.6, and this will be also 4.6. Okay, so if you have 4.6, and also you are told that the area of the trapezium is 179.4, then we can be able to use area is equals a half h a plus b, where a plus b are the two parallel sides, this side and this particular side. So meaning that we're going to have 8.4 plus 17.6, and then we look for the height. If you make h the subject, you're going to get the height being 13.8. 13.8 has the height. So which means this point here we have 13.8. At the base here we have 4.6. Then we can be able to use SOHCAHTOA to work out the angle that we are having at that point. So we can be able to use tan of theta is equals to opposite over adjacent. So we can say tan theta is equals to opposite over adjacent. So if you work that value, you are going to get that angle being equivalent to 18.4. The angle is going to be 18.4. So if that angle is 18.4, and then we have also 90 degrees here, yeah, then it means that if we add this angle, we have gotten 18.4 plus 90 degrees, we'll get the total angle that you are being asked, angle ABC. So that we can now say the angle is going to be 18.4 plus 90, and that's going to be 108.4. So this question proved to be quite difficult to many of the candidates, and I believe now you are in a position to handle such kind of a question. The most important part that was here is to remember the formula for area of a trapezium, and also the use of SOHCAHTOA, which became very, very critical and very important for us to work it out. Moving to another question, we are told here, a student was given this and was expected to write it in this particular form. So a very common question that is usually asked, write it in this particular form. So the first thing that candidates were supposed to remember is to group this together, these two numbers to be grouped together. So once you have grouped those two numbers, once you have grouped these two numbers here, then it will mean that we are going to factor 5 out. If you factor 5 out, you are going to have 5 into bracket x squared minus 4x then plus 23. Then now you are going to complete the square of what we are having here. So to complete the square, usually you take a half of this number that is here. A half of that number is going to be 2. So this is going to be x minus a half of that. Now the process of completing the square is at this level here. Okay? Because here you can see what I did. I factored out. Then at this particular point now, this is where we are completing the square. So you will take a half of this number is going to be 2. You write it down here. So you say x minus, you are not going to write x squared. You write x minus 2, close the bracket, power 2. Okay. Then once you've done that, you are going to subtract the square of this number that you are having inside here. Subtract the square of that number, then plus 23. Now we open the bracket, 5 times this, you will get this one. And 5 times 4, this is 4, is going to be 20. Then minus 20 plus 23 is going to give us minus 3. So the final expression for that becomes this. Now, once we have gotten this, we can go ahead and state the turning point, because if you have given such kind of a question, they may ask you to state turning point. Whenever you are asked to state the turning point or the minimum point or maximum point, you come and read the number that you have inside here. You take the positive. The number that you have here, you take opposite sign. If it's negative, you take positive. If it's positive, you take this number to be negative. So this is going to be positive 2, comma, minus 3. Now that becomes the turning point, maximum point or minimum point, the coordinate for that. Another question that also has given quite many students a challenge is a question to do with solving quadratic inequalities. Now, the first thing that you need to understand that whenever you are told to solve a quadratic inequality, first treat it as an equal sign. Solve it as an equal sign. solve it as an equation. So we are going to say this is 2x squared plus x minus 28 is equals to 0. Just treat that as a quadratic equation, then solve for x. Once you've solved for x, you will get your x maybe is 3.5, and you get your x value to be minus 1.4. Solving it normally may be using factorization or using a quadratic formula. Now, once you have done that, because you are told that our inequality is just greater than 0, you are going to plot that on a number line like that. You identify -4 and you identify your 3.5. But whatever we want is greater than. Look at this one. The sign original given here was greater than. So if it is greater than, you focus on the line of the graph that is above the graph. This is the region that we are interested with, this region here. So what values of x define those regions? Is values of x in this direction, above 3.5, or values of x below -4. So whenever you're going to say, write your answer, you write x is less than or is less than -4, x is greater than 3.5. That's how you write the answer for this. But if the question was having an inequality, I've just given you this question so that you can be able to see in the event a question like that is asked, but instead of having greater than, now you have less than. The approach is the same, but now the region that you are going to take as your solution will be different. So you'll have your one, let me just say, make this so that you can be able to see what I'm trying to say here. So in the event you have gotten your solution like just previously, but the inequality that we are having here is a bit different. Yeah. The inequality is just, the inequality that we are having here is facing in the opposite direction, less than, meaning we are going to focus on the graph below the x-axis. That's what that means. And the region that defines the part of the graph that is below the x-axis are region values of x which are between these 2 points, here, which is going to be x is going to be greater than -4 but less than 3.5. So that's how you can be able to find solutions for quadratic inequalities. First, ignore the inequality sign, get the answers, and then identify the best region for you to work out. Also, you can be given questions like this where you are supposed to write in the form, but something that you need to remember is that you are supposed to substitute. You are supposed to substitute the value that you are having here. Write this in the form m ny p. So which means that whenever we are having our a here, a, remember, was 2x plus 5 over 1 minus x. Anywhere we have x, we are going to replace with whatever that we were given at this given point. So that's why you can see I say now, instead of writing 2x, I wrote 2 whatever that we have there. And this point I have x also down here. I replaced that. Then to remove the fraction and simplify this, I decided to multiply every term by 3y, because you can see we have 3y here, 3y here. That is going to, if you multiply, you're going to cancel the fractions, so that eventually we are going to remain with the expression that looks like this. And if you simplify it, you're gonna have the expression in the format you are expected. So what was done here, or what was expected here for all the candidates, is to use substitution correctly. Another question that has really brought a lot of question is a question to do with three-dimensional geometry, whereby candidates were asked to find the volume of the prism. So for you to find the volume of the prism, of course, you need to have the cross-section area and then times the length of that particular prism that is there. So the cross-section area that we are talking about is this part that is shaded yellow. So first thing that we are supposed to do is to look at AD. Where is AD? AD is basically this side. Yeah. Okay. That is one side, and then we are told that BC is 1/5 AD. BC is 1/5 AD. So what does that mean? BC, where is BC? We have our BC well seated here. This is BC. So this is our BC, this one here. So BC is equals to 1/5 AD. Okay. AB is 10 centimeters. And then we also have which information? Angle of elevation of E from B is 50 degrees. B from E is 50 degrees. So this angle here is 50 degrees. Yeah, this angle here is 50 degrees. This one. So if that is 50, how is it going to help us really? So since we know that this is 10 and this is 14, we can be able to find this length here. And using Pythagoras theorem, we can be able to find the diagonal B to F as 17.2. Using Pythagoras theorem, we could be able to find that. So BF, I worked it out using Pythagoras theorem to be 17.2. So using 17.2 and the angle that is given here, using 17.2 and this angle, we can now be able to work out the height of this particular section. So the angle here is 50, the base here is basically 17.2, and then we can be able to use SOHCAHTOA to find that. So that is exactly what I did here. I said tan theta is equals opposite over adjacent, so tan 50 is height over 17.2. Then working it out, we are going to get the angle being equivalent to 105. So once you have gotten that angle being equals to, 20.5 rather, after getting that height being 20.5, we can now be able to use the relationship that AD is 20.5, but BC is going to be 1/5 of AD. Yeah. If FE is 20.5, it also means that AD is going to be 20.5. Yeah, it's also going to be 20.5. Then from 20.5, which is our AD, we can be able to get what BC is. So which means that our BC is going to be 4.1. 4.1. Then we can now find the cross-section area, which is a trapezium. So this plus this, and the height of that trapezium is 10. So we can be able to say that our cross-section area is going to be equals to 123. Okay. Now we have the cross-section area. Something that we need to remember is that volume is equals to cross-section area times the length, and that is going to translate to 1722. So basically that's how you are supposed to work out question to do with three-dimensional geometry, whereby you can be told to find volume, you can be told to find angle between a line and a plane. Remember how to use SOHCAHTOA, how to use cosine rule, sine rule, as well as how you can be able to use the concept of Pythagoras theorem. Okay, so we also have another question here that say that Len has 8 parcels. The mean weight of the 8 parcels is 2.5. The mean weight of 3 of the parcels is 2 kg. Work out the mean weight of other 5 parcels. So if the mean weight of the 8 parcels is 2.5, then for us to get the total weight is 2.5 times 8, which is going to give us 20. If we want to work out the weight for the 3 parcels that were having a mean of 2, then we are going to say 2 times 3, and that's going to give us 6. So the weight of the remaining ones is going to be the total weight of the 8 parcels minus the 3 that we have here. So which means that we are going to get 20 minus 6, which is going to translate to what? Which is going to translate to 14 kilograms. Meaning that for us to get the mean of the mean of 5 parcels is going to be 14 that we have gotten here, divide by 5, and that is going to translate to 2.8, and that's all. That's what you are supposed to do in such kind of a question. Question number 9, we are told that in a cell, the normal price of a coat reduced by R. Given that the sell price is 0.7 times the normal price, find out the value of R. Basically here, I say the sell price is going to be 1 minus R over 100 times the normal price. And if you work it out, your R is going to be 30. Your R is going to be 30%. Question number 17. Also, this is a question to do with bounds, upper and lower bounds. Metal block has a mass of 5 kg. A metal block has a mass of 5 kg. Correct to the nearest 50 grams. Correct to the nearest 50 grams. So for you to check what you need to add or subtract at this level here, you are going to say plus all minus 25 grams, so that we can be able to know at the upper and the lower bound. Then we have the block of volume, this to 3 significant figures. So the best thing you are supposed to do at that particular point, if you write this, it will be 0.00184. So the least unit that we can have here is 0.00001. Least unit you can measure from here. The smallest unit. Then that smallest unit divided by 2 so that we can be able to get the absolute value. So we are going to say plus or minus 0.00005. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, that is what is added or subtracted, plus all minus that. Now for you to get density upper bound, it will be mass upper bound divided by volume lower bound. And volume, now we are going to say it will be 5.025, and then we shall subtract this to get the lower bound, shall subtract this value to get the lower bound. And if you work it out, you are going to get your answer being equivalent to what? So let's check using our calc what that is going to translate to. That is 5.025 Yeah, so that translates to 75 times 10 raised to power 5. Yeah, so this becomes the density of that solid. Yeah, so another question also was a question to do with ratios, which is well illustrated here. You need to, I want you to follow through and check how you're supposed. You can just pause the video so that you can be able to follow through exactly what we did in that particular question. So you need to be ready to answer question to do with fractions, percentages, and also ratios. Now, another question that I need to really mention here is the question to do with similar solids and shapes. In this question that here we were told that R and S are two similar shapes. We have two similar shapes, R and S. And we are told that the shape R has a surface area of 108 and a volume of 135 centimeter cubic. S has surface area of 300 centimeter square. So using this surface area that we are given here and also this surface area that we have here, we can be able to find the area scale factor. Surface area of S divided by surface area of R is going to give us what we call the area scale factor. And our area scale factor is going to translate to this. But from area scale factor, you can easily get what we call linear scale factor, because if you take the square root of area scale factor, you are going to get what our linear scale factor, which is going to be 5/3. That is the linear scale factor. But from linear scale factor, we can be able to get volume scale factor. And volume scale factor is linear scale factor cubed. So meaning anytime you're doing these questions, you must have a linear scale factor so that you can be able to convert to area scale factor or to volume scale factor. Now, volume scale factor in this part is 125/27. Then we can now say volume of S. Now, if you started with a surface area of S, you must also start with volume of S over volume of R, and that is going to give us what we call the volume scale factor. So volume of S is the one that we are looking out for this question. And then it means that we are going to now say volume of S over volume of R, which is 135. It was actually given here, is equals to the volume scale factor that we have gotten from this question here, 125. Okay, so we can now say volume of S over volume of R, which is 135, is equals to 125/27. And if you work it out, you are going to get 625. So a very commonly asked question for similar shapes, and I believe we are okay up to that particular point. Well, we have also a rhombus, and the diagonals of the rhombus are intersecting at a point where we have the coordinate being 6, -11. Coordinates are intersecting at the point where we have 6, -11. So what candidates were supposed to do here is to use this equation that was given here and find the gradient. Rearranging in the form y is equals to mx plus c, you can now be able to find the gradient. The gradient of this line here is -7/2. Since the diagonals are perpendicular to each other, this diagonal is perpendicular to this one, and that's where the line passes, then we can be able to say the two lines are perpendicular. Then you can use the concept of m1 times m2 is equals to -1. So if the gradient of this line is negative 7/2, then the perpendicular line here will be having a gradient of 2/7. So that if you multiply these two values, you are going to get -1. Then since we have the gradient of this line and where the line passes is 6, -11, then we can be able to find the equation of this line using the formula y minus y1 is equals to m into x minus x1. This is a method or a formula you can use to find the equation of any straight line whenever you have the gradient and you have where one point where the line passes. So you are going to take this point where the line passes, you call it x1 and y1. So you take general point y minus y1, whereby our y1 is 11. So 11 minus -11, you are going to get positive here. And m is the gradient. Of course, we say the gradient is this. So you shall say 2/7 into x minus 6. But we were asked where the line BD intersects the x-axis, the y-axis, intersects the y-axis. At the y-axis, we know x is always equals to 0. So you are going to come to this particular equation we are trying to find here. Anywhere you have x, you put zeros. You see that's why I substituted, because in this question we are not finding the equation of the line. We are just interested with the coordinate. So that's why I did not continue to finish this equation. I just came and plug in where I have x, I wrote 0, because on the y-axis x is 0. Then you can be able to get your y coordinate to be -89/7. So that coordinate is 0, -89/7, like that. There's also a question on transformation. Whenever you have a function with a negative like that, it means that the change is happening outside the bracket, okay? And if it's negative, it's going to be a reflection on the y-axis, reflection on the y-axis, reflection on the x-axis rather, reflection on the x-axis. That's a mistake. Yeah. Also here, there was another time a question was asked about inequalities, and students were given values like this. Find the range of values of x for which the gradient is negative. So the first thing that you are supposed to learn is to differentiate px power 3, differentiating px power 3 minus mx. Differentiating that, you're going to take the power down. You're going to take this power down in front of p, then you decrease it by 1. You subtract 1 on that power, so you get 3px squared. Differentiating this, you are going to get just m. Then you are told where the gradient is negative. Gradient is negative anytime you have less than 0. Yeah, y less than 0 will give you a gradient negative. So meaning when you have values where those numbers are less than 0, they are negative. So basically that's what we are going to say. Negative gradient will be less than 0. So if you treat this as an equal sign, then you solve that quadratic, you are going to get x is going to be equals to plus or minus root m over 3p, because if you divide by 3p, divide by 3p, then you find the square root. That's exactly what you are going to get. Then from here, you can be able now to sketch as I showed you, and we are interested with less than 0. If less than 0, we are interested with the lower part of the line, this part of the graph. So that's going to be x is greater than what? Root m over 3p, square root negative of that, or is going to be greater than that or less than m over 3p. Yeah, so basically that's how you write your answers. So we've come to the end of these questions that really had proven to be very difficult for candidates. We're going to have now another tutorial. Just check the link in the description, whereby you can be able to see hard questions for paper 2 and what candidates are supposed to do in order to work out such kind of questions. So if you are new to Proflan YouTube channel, consider subscribing so that anytime I'm going to upload more tutorials, you'll be notified. See you in the next tutorial.